I think the bottom line here is that we don't want this Biden money in our county. There's no such thing as free money, ever. There are always strings attached. And the notion that we would keep the money in a separate account is not acceptable. We want you to send it back. The Biden regime has proven to be tyrannical and anti-American.
You know, when disaster strikes, I do think it is pretty normal to start asking questions about what could have been done better to prevent such a catastrophic event. And normally, these types of questions would be reserved for our elected officials or the people who are going to make those types of decisions. But down in Kerr County, Texas, where we saw these devastating flash floods, it appears as though the elected officials are placing some of the blame on their constituents and their conservative politics. Let me break it down for you. Kerr County, Texas is one of the most dangerous places in our country when it comes to these types of flash floods. And ever since 2016, they have been discussing whether or not they should upgrade their flood warning system, and then they never got around to it. And then in 2021, they were awarded $10.2 million as part of Biden's American Rescue Package. But it appears as though the conspiratorial worldview that has been adopted by this MAGA movement may have played a role as to why these flood warning systems never got built. And I want to go ahead and show you some of the testimony from the constituents back in 2021 when these discussions were taking place, where these conspiracies are on full display. But first, I want to show you how Republicans are really trying to blame the left for trying to politicize these weather events. If you guys do appreciate my work, please do remember to subscribe.
Is there anything more that can be done congressionally, legislatively to help these folks?
In a moment like this, we feel just as helpless as everyone else. All we know to do at this moment is pray.
Let me tell you, these left-wing liberals that want to make this political and blame this storm on Donald Trump for crying out loud, this is an act of God like we've never seen before.
Every football team makes mistakes. The losing teams are the ones that try to point out who's to blame.
Blaming President Trump for these floods is a depraved lie, and it serves no purpose during this time of national mourning.
Yeah, I find it quite rich that it's the Republicans bitching and moaning about the left politicizing these events when they are more than willing to politicize extreme weather events when it comes to LA being on fire. They're more than happy going after Gavin Newsom. And in this particular case, when it comes to these floods, it is more than reasonable to ask whether or not Donald Trump gutting the federal government had any role to play as to why Kerr County was so unprepared, especially when he's cutting hundreds of positions from the National Weather Service and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. These are more than reasonable questions to ask. So these Republicans can spare me. They're hypocritical losers who should be made fun of. Now, I want to go ahead and move on to some of this constituent testimony from down in Kerr County. Like I said, this conspiratorial worldview that has been adopted by the MAGA movement is on full display. Here's one of the constituents saying that we don't want any more of Biden's money or Biden's mandates. And she actually threatens her elected officials.
You were elected to serve the people. We do not want more of Biden's mandates attached to keeping Biden's money. If I had stood here 2 years ago, told you that you have mandatory lockdowns, multiple violations of our freedoms and constitutional rights, that many small businesses in this town would not survive, I doubt anyone would have believed me. But I am here to put each man on notice. The man called Rob Kelly, the man called Harvey Blue, Don Harris, Beck Gibson, and Jonathan Letts, that if you vote to keep Biden's money, I will hold you personally responsible and personally liable for any and all harm that comes to I, a woman called Sherry Snyder, and the family of I, as well as the residents of this county. Please know, all of your personal assets will be at risk for the claims I will file if necessary. The harm that could follow by keeping this money could easily accumulate to millions, far more than the interest you are hoping to keep from Biden's $10.1 million. I agree with Richard King, we need a public forum, a town hall meeting held at a large facility like the Ag Barn, held after 5 p.m. like he suggested for the working men and women.
So here you have a constituent of Kerr County threatening her elected officials of coming after their personal assets if they accept this $10.2 million from the American Rescue Package. And she's under the impression that this comes with all these strings attached, that Biden is going to mandate that this county does this and does that and does this and does that, and therefore we should not take this money, even though it could help the Kerr County constituents to such a degree. I mean, just think about what would have happened if this money was accepted sooner and they were able to deliberate and spend this money, about $1 million or so, on this flood warning system. Would we have dozens of children dead right now? I mean, it's really, something we really need to think about. We always talk about how our elected politicians, they're the ones getting us in all this trouble, or they're the ones polarizing us. But here you have constituents in a county in Texas who are letting their conspiratorial worldview dictate whether or not they should receive federal funds that could help them out so tremendously. I just find it so incredibly sad. Here's another person saying that it's actually the Biden administration who has proven to be tyrannical.
I think the bottom line here is that we don't want this Biden money in our county. There's no such thing as free money ever. There are always strings attached. And the notion that we would keep the money in a separate account is not acceptable. We want you to send it back. The Biden regime has proven to be tyrannical and anti-American. There is no part of this administration that has the good of America or Americans at heart. We want no part in anything coming down from the federal government. This is Texas, and Texans can take care of Texas. The Biden administration has already disregarded a court order by the Fifth Circuit regarding the vaccine mandates. Even after a second and clear ruling against them, they are still giving instructions to disregard court orders. The only guarantee we have of keeping Biden in D.C. and keeping Kerr County free of his overreach is by refusing the funds. We don't want them.
So here you have a constituent whose brain has clearly been warped by the COVID-19 pandemic, trying to say that Biden ignored all these Supreme Court orders when that couldn't be further from the truth, trying to say that these funds are going to come attached with all these different mandates or all these different provisions or all these different requirements, even though that wasn't the case. And here you have an American citizen rejecting or wanting to reject federal money when we should all be in this game together. Like, the tax dollars from California should go help people in Texas when they are in need. We should pool our money together to make sure that it is all the American citizens who are taken care of. But this MAGA worldview has so demonized anything on the left, anything that is not in total alignment with their worldview, to such an extent that we have people like voting against or speaking out against their better interests because they think that Biden is going to come down on them in some sort of tyrannical screed. Again, I find this not only fascinating, but I find it completely disheartening. I mean, we should be able to be in this fight together. We are all Americans, and I have no qualms about my tax dollars going to help a disaster victim down in Texas, or to prepare with a flood warning system for somebody down in Texas if they are prone to this type of flash flooding. Of course, I want my American brethren to be safe. I mean, I just find it so insane. Here's the next guy, saying that we're making a deal with the devil who's in the White House, obviously referring to Biden.
If it sounds too good to be true, it is. This is federal overreach at its worst. You know, look at what's happened with all the other money that they've paid out to people. So we've got unemployment. Who wants to go to work when you're getting a free ride? When, you know, our Lord wants and intends us all to work if we're capable. Charity is a great thing, but if you're able to work, you ought to be working. Now, we don't need these funds here. We've done just fine. And we'll get by without them. But you spend this money, You're signing a contract with the devil, and the devil's in the White House. I don't trust our current administration.
We don't need this money. We do just fine. And now we have dozens of children dead due to these flash floods. We have more than 100 people in total, 130 people in total, who have lost their lives due to these flash floods. There's 100 people still missing as a result of these floods. They are presumed dead as well. And you've got this guy saying that you're going to be signing a deal with the devil, and that devil is sitting in the White House talking about Joe Biden. Because his brain has been so poisoned to think that Democrats, anybody on the left, they're just working against this country. They're anti-American. They are trying to rip out public or civil life from the American people. They're trying to take all their values away. Whatever the demonization has been, I mean, we've seen it all over the map. But you can see how these conspiratorial worldviews, they are put together like a Jenga tower, right? One lie is attached to this lie, attached to that lie, and if you pull one of them out, the whole thing comes crashing down. That is why these people are so reluctant to go against some of that programming. And I find it completely disheartening that we now have so many people dead, which is, we just don't normally see natural weather events like this take out so many people right here in America. But I have a feeling it's because of this conspiratorial worldview that has been adopted by the MAGA movement. It is detrimentally impacting these people's lives. We could have had this flood warning system built back in 2021. But because these guys have been fed so much bullshit about all of these tyrannical things that the Biden administration did, they're unwilling to accept money with basically no strings attached. Here's the next guy saying that we shouldn't take this money from these dirty communists.
First of all, this contract is open-ended, as Harley stated. I mean, they can change it at any time. And it clearly states in there that you do have to abide by all of their executive orders and rules. And what gets me is, you talk about spending this money on Kerr County infrastructure that's needed. This money wouldn't even exist if it hadn't been for the great scamdemic. They created the problems that created the need, the shortage of tax funds and money. And you talk about 2022 and 2021, this might happen. I don't trust anything, including our elections, our Supreme Court. I mean, I know a lot of people my age are having a hard time admitting that this is happening in America in our lifetime. But these people are communists. They hate America. They're teaching it in our schools. They're invading the border as we speak. I don't think we should take any money from the federal government because they can't be trusted. And I know Kerr County is a bastion for traditional values, conservatives. It has been for a long time. That's one of the reasons I live here. And I don't want to see that kind of tyranny come to this county. Thank you very much.
And there you kind of get a glimpse of a more rounded picture of that worldview. I mean, you heard a whole bunch of different things there. Talking about the scamdemic, talking about how the COVID pandemic was somehow a scam to what? Get Biden in power, I think is how the conspiracy went. Then he's saying, what was the next one? The Supreme Court he had on there. Oh, the elections, how they were stolen. I mean, it is all an amalgamation of these different conspiracies that make up these people's worldview. And when they were awarded $10.2 million that could have been used to build the very flood warning system that could have saved more than 100 lives, this is what we got instead. And I believe they put out a survey, and it was like 42% of the 180 people surveyed wanted to reject this Biden money because it was coming from the Biden administration. Now, ultimately, they ended up keeping the money, but the overwhelming majority of it was spent on the police. None of it was used to build up this flood warning system, even though this has been a topic of conversation back since 2016. It is so damn devastating. And we are seeing how, these conspiratorial worldviews are having such an outsized influence in our politics. People are going against their better interests, the better interests of their community, the better interests of their family, because they have been sold a bill of goods that has no resemblance to the truth. I mean, we talk about this on the channel all the time. These people have detached from reality. They are living in this MAGA conspiracy bubble that is impacting their lives like they probably couldn't even imagine. I just find it so damn devastating. Now, I will say that it's not 100%. We can't draw a direct line from this funding to the lives lost in these Kerr County floods over the July 4th weekend. But it is a reasonable question to pose. If these conspiratorial beliefs weren't so pervasive, if these people had accepted the funds sooner and were able to build a flood warning system, could we have saved these dozens of children's lives, these more than hundreds of people's lives? I think it is a very reasonable question to ask, and we should really try to evaluate how these conspiracies are having such huge impacts on things that you probably wouldn't even consider at first. Where you've got a whole county, very, very, very conservative county, that is rejecting federal dollars because they're under the impression that Biden is going to come over and like steal their property or take ownership of their property and make them into slaves. I mean, the conspiracies are out of this world insane. And it is hurting people down in Texas. So I will leave it there for now, guys. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. We are trying to build something here on the left that pushes back against this right-wing media ecosystem that just launders all of this conspiratorial worldview to people like this day in and day out. So if you do like what I do here and you want to join a team that is pushing back against this MAGA media machine, be sure to smash that subscribe button. And if you guys want to see how Donald Trump is just crashing out right now in regards to this whole Epstein debacle, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. It is a sight to behold, quite entertaining. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.